I thought I was paying my father's medical bills, when in reality I was giving money to my stepsister. My father believed he had a home and a healthy heart, after I confronted him. I'm 28 years old. My dad remarried when I was 12, after my mom passed away. His new wife came with Laura, who was 8 at the time. She quickly became my father's favorite child, for whatever reasons. 2 years ago, my stepmother was diagnosed with breast cancer. Laura said hospitals were too traumatic for her, and she basically disappeared, leaving Dad to handle everything alone. My relationship with my stepmother was good, so I took on the responsibility. I used vacation days to drive her to chemotherapy, helped with groceries, cleaned, and cooked. For the first time in years, Dad seemed genuinely grateful. He told me how proud he was of me. After my stepmother recovered, Dad began talking about his own health problems and started going for checkups. 18 months ago, he called me in a panic. He said he had been diagnosed with a serious heart condition, one that required immediate surgery and expensive ongoing treatment. His insurance would cover most of it, but there were still large out-of-pocket costs he couldn't afford. He sounded terrified that he might have to skip treatments because of the money. I offered to help. I had about $15,000 saved. He cried on the phone, thanking me, telling me he didn't deserve a son like me. Over the next 8 months, I sent him money regularly. First, $3,000 for the surgery. Then $1,200 for tests. $800 for medications. And another $2,000 for procedures. Each time, he sent me what looked like medical bills and insurance statements, thanking me over and over. It wasn't money I could easily spare. But I felt good, thinking I was helping save my dad's life. In total, I gave him nearly $12,000. Last December, I decided to surprise them with a Christmas visit. When I arrived, there was a brand new luxury SUV in the driveway with temporary plates. An early Christmas gift for Laura, because her old car wasn't good enough for her. I also noticed Laura was well dressed. At first, I thought maybe she had a new boyfriend. But it was clear she hadn't bought those things on her own. To my surprise, there was no boyfriend. There was only one explanation: my father. And if Dad was really struggling with medical bills, how could he afford to buy all these things for Laura? The next morning, I confronted him. At first he denied everything. But when cornered, he broke down and admitted the truth. There had never been a serious heart condition. He had only had a routine EKG, which showed a minor irregularity. A follow-up with a cardiologist confirmed everything was normal. The medical bills were fabricated, using old invoices from my stepmother's cancer treatments. The money wasn't for medical expenses at all. It went directly to Laura, to fund her lifestyle, the car, the clothes, the jewelry, and more. All of it was paid with the money I believed was saving my father's life, when in fact it was being wasted on Laura. When I asked why, his explanation was even worse than the lie. Laura had been threatening to cut off contact with him unless he gave her a generous allowance. She said her life was miserable, and her job didn't pay enough for the things she wanted. Dad felt trapped. He couldn't bear the thought of losing Laura. And since I was more responsible and didn't need as much help, he believed I would contribute if I thought it was a medical emergency. I demanded every cent back, plus interest, plus what I considered a fee for not suing him until he actually had a heart attack. He said it wasn't possible, because the money had already been spent and Laura had no savings. I gave him 30 days to reimburse me, or I would take legal action and cut off all contact. Laura overheard, and had the audacity to act like I was being unreasonable. She said, word for word as I remember it, "The money is already gone. And it's very unlikely you'll get it back. You should just move on. And honestly, you should feel good it was being used, instead of just gathering dust in your bank account." To him, it was just dust. To me, it was savings, money I planned to use for a house, or to fall back on if I ever lost my job. That same day, I left and cut off all contact. Dad reached out a few times, sometimes apologizing, other times justifying his actions. But he never once tried to return the money. I waited a reasonable time, a week, and then I spoke to a lawyer. Maybe I was hoping Dad would come to his senses, and shake Laura until money fell out of her like fruit from a tree. 3 days ago, Dad called from the hospital. This time, he really was sick. He had suffered a heart attack, and needed bypass surgery. How do I know? Because I went to the hospital. I asked for his room, and there he was. When he saw me, I turned around and left. I already had my confirmation. But even then, he had a look of happiness on his face, just because I was there. But I didn't see his expression when I turned around and left. I suppose that for a few seconds, a part of him thought I was there to pay his bills. I wasn't. I only wanted to know if his condition was real this time. I wanted to know if karma had finally caught up with him. I also spoke with my stepmother about it, and we had an interesting conversation. When my stepmother called Laura about the heart attack, Laura said she was too busy to visit, and that they should deal with their own problems, since they had chosen not to support her anymore. She even told them that the heart attack probably came from the stress of being bad parents. I completely agree. Apparently, my confrontation made my father stop supporting my stepsister completely. Another thing that came up in my talk with my stepmother was that she had no idea about my financial help with Dad's fake emergency. It was very interesting to tell her. Now my father is facing real medical bills that I know he won't be able to pay. He has no savings, and his credit cards are maxed out. My stepmother doesn't know what to do with the information I've given her. They could even lose their house, because of a second mortgage taken out to cover Laura's expenses. Part of me feels like continuing my lawsuit against him. If the bastard survives his surgery, I'll be one of his creditors. Another part of me wonders if there's even more I can sue him for. I don't feel pity for a father who used a fake medical condition to rob his own son, just to give money to his stepdaughter. Yes, I only wish the surgery succeeds, because I need him alive to pay his debts. One note, my father didn't buy the SUV completely with my money, but he did use it for the down payment, as far as I can tell. I don't know exactly what else my money went to, but it was all for Laura. I'm sure of that. I also know he's been using his own money, and that he has a lot of debts because of it. But I don't care. I'm not going to take responsibility or feel sorry for him, because he's been stupid with money. For those who asked why I only discovered the truth now and not back when he had his surgery, it was because, conveniently, on the day of that surgery, I couldn't go to the hospital. He knew about a work trip I had, and he used that to make sure I wasn't there. He said my stepmother and stepsister would be with him. When I offered to postpone my trip, he insisted I shouldn't, part of the elaborate lie. That's why now, I want him to survive, only so I can get back every last cent. Update 1. Here I am again, with a few things to share about my father and the surgery. His insurance will cover a large part, but he will still have about $8,000 in out-of-pocket expenses, plus a long list of medications he'll need afterwards. I don't even have that money to help him, because, as you know, he scammed me to buy things for his stepdaughter. His financial situation is just as bad as he claimed, maybe even worse. My stepmother let me see his account statements and credit card balances. They were completely maxed out. They had taken out a second mortgage and were behind on payments. If things keep going like this, they'll probably lose the house within a few months, even without counting the hospital bills. But what really shocked me were Laura's text messages. My dad had saved many of them, and they were brutal. She was constantly demanding money, sometimes hinting, sometimes openly threatening to cut off emotional contact if he didn't send her anything. Blackmail that, apparently, my stepmother didn't know much about. Or so it seems. But knowing my stepmother, I think I can believe that. Then I received a message from my father, with an admission and an apology. He admitted that he had betrayed my trust, and that lying about the previous medical bills wasn't just wrong, it was theft. He said seeing Laura's true personality had forced him to reconsider many things, and seeing how I walked away after the betrayal made him realize how much he had taken my help for granted. He told me he had been trying to find a way to return the $12,000 he had stolen from me, even little by little. But his finances made it impossible right now. Still, he promised that if he recovered, paying me back would be his first priority. It didn't erase all the pain, nothing could. But he said he wanted to at least do something to make it right. At this point, I'm tempted to just pay his medical bills to keep him alive, and then sue him for everything. The way the doctors talk, it almost sounds like they're planning to let him go instead of saving him. A part of me even thinks about signing the papers, if that's the case. But then I remember he owes me money, and that thought passes quickly. From my talk with my stepmother, I also gathered that she's supporting him now only because he's close to dying. But as soon as things are resolved, she plans to ask for a divorce. And I know what this looks like. If he dies, she keeps the assets. But I'm not an accountant, and honestly, with so many debts, I don't know if much will even be left for her. I think she's staying with him only because, despite everything, she feels a little pity. And no, I'm not going to help my father with his medical bills. My lawsuit is still moving forward. My stepmother says she's looking for a way to come up with the money, since with my father's financial situation, it doesn't seem like the hospital will accept pay later. Update 2. My father's surgery went well. Fortunately, the doctors were optimistic about his recovery. They said that as long as he followed the care plan and didn't overexert himself, he had a good chance of returning to a relatively normal life. It was a relief after everything that had happened, because if the diagnosis had been bad, goodbye to my money. I asked my stepmother if recovery also included the ability to pay his debts. She told me she hadn't asked the doctors that. Apparently, that's not considered a valid medical question. Who would have thought? But of course, all of this isn't without drama. It almost seems like Laura wants to kill my father before he has a chance to honor his debts. She found out her mother had helped get the money for the medical bills, and obviously wanted to know why none of it had gone to her. She showed up at the hospital unannounced. Not to see Dad, but to confront her mother and demand some of the money. I can't give you exact details of what happened, since I haven't seen my father since the day I just confirmed he was there. But apparently, it turned into quite the spectacle, the kind you'd expect from someone entitled. Sweet and loving when there's money, full of rage when there isn't. She complained that there was money for surgery, but none for her. That it wasn't fair they had money for some things, but not when she needed something. Eventually, security was called. At first, she refused to leave, but after more screaming, crying, biting, and what sounded like a war cry, she was finally escorted out. Before leaving, she told my stepmother that if she didn't see money by the end of the week, then she wanted nothing more to do with any of us. That could have been the end of it, but of course, it wasn't. 2 days later, she called me. She thought the money had come from my pocket, poor fool, though I can't blame her. She probably knew where part of the earlier money came from. She screamed like someone who had stubbed their toe on the edge of the bed. She accused me of manipulating the whole situation just to make her look bad. According to her, I had brought my money only to humiliate her. Then she called me a pathetic loser, saying I had to buy love because I was too boring to earn it naturally. The most absurd thing she said was that she deserved the money more than Dad, because she brought more joy to the family. And that financing her lifestyle was apparently more important than saving our father's life. At that point, I hung up. I didn't even bother clarifying that it hadn't been me. I liked the idea of letting her stew in that thought. But she kept leaving voicemail after voicemail, each one more unhinged than the last. She started threatening to sue me for alienation of affection. Then she escalated, accusing me of having made advances toward her, and said she would report me to the police. No. You can't possibly be stupid enough to leave a record of a false accusation on voicemail. Yes, I've already filed a police report for harassment and threats, presenting the evidence my stepsister so generously, or rather, so fiercely, handed to me. Her mother already knows about these things, and she's in full, God, get me out of here mode. She's just waiting until my father recovers enough to receive strong news. The divorce is inevitable. As for me, I'm not waiting. My lawyer said we're close to announcing the first hearing on the debt, and the news will be delivered when the time comes. I don't care if his heart is weak. It wasn't weak when he was paying for the spoiled monster's whims. With my stepsister's rock-level intelligence, his heart was beating strong then. Same when he was binging on junk food. Update 3. My father is better, at least in terms of his health. But blows have been coming at him from all sides. His mental health might not be in the best place, but his heart is beating strong, and there are no blocked arteries. We now have the judge's order for him to repay me the $12,000, plus an additional $8,000 for interest, damages, and compensation for the fraud. That's to prevent me from pursuing further legal action. If he pays on time, which I honestly don't expect, I'll end up with more money than if I had invested it in the stock market. If he doesn't, the repayment plan includes late interest as well. My stepmother also served him divorce papers right after seeing the judge's ruling on my lawsuit. She figured that if that didn't kill him, the divorce papers wouldn't be too much for him to handle. For now, he's still with us. So, he's strong as an oak. Maybe he'll face another lawsuit or two, but we'll see how good his surgeon really was when he starts losing the house and everything else. Now, let's focus on Laura for a moment, because things have been moving quickly for her too. It turns out Laura's boyfriend finally started to realize that if it wasn't my father paying, then he would have to be the idiot. When she refused to pay next month's rent, out on the street she went. A hard blow to her ego, since she thought someone would always take care of her expenses as long as she played the part. Well, the play has been cancelled, because nobody wants to watch her. I think, and it's only a thought, that my report against her may have been the trigger. The timing and everything could have opened her boyfriend's eyes. But there were so many red flags, I can't believe I was the only reason. My reports didn't go very far, but they did start an investigation, and some other consequences I'll share with you. From what I've heard, Laura is now desperately looking for a place to stay. Honestly, I have no idea where she might be sleeping. I know it's not with my stepmother, because she's still living with my father until she finds her own place. I don't know Laura's friends, and she hasn't posted anything new on social media that would give me a clue. What I do know, and this leads to the second consequence of her threats, is that she lost her job. Maybe someone sent the audio recordings to her boss. Maybe not. Maybe that person was me. Or maybe not. Either way, they found out, and she was fired. I don't think it's unfair. If you enjoy manipulating people, you should also be prepared to enjoy losing your job, not having a place to sleep, being dumped by your boyfriend, and all the bad things that come with being a despicable person. I'm sorry if you think revenge is bad, or that it makes me like my sister. But I won't let anyone spread lies about something as serious as what she accused me of. Next time, maybe don't make threats. Or at least pick something true, if you even have that. Better luck next time, or better yet, in the next life. Because in this one, she's had a pretty bad start, and recovering from this will cost her dearly. At this point, I'm seriously considering filing for a restraining order. I don't know if I qualify for one, but having it could be a good precedent in case she tries anything else against me. My stepmother has decided to cut all contact with Laura unless she agrees to seek professional mental health help. Yes, when even your own mother doesn't want anything to do with you, it's because you've made one or two mistakes at the very least. And Laura has made far too many. I can tell it hurts her mother, but she's admitted that continuing to enable Laura's behavior would only harm everyone, including Laura herself. She started therapy to deal with the grief and guilt of cutting her daughter off, but she knows it's the right decision. The worst part is, I don't think it's entirely her fault. My father had been enabling Laura behind her back for a long time. Now they're dealing with a monster raised on nothing but indulgence. More reasons for her to divorce my father. My relationship with my father is completely non-existent, and at this point it must be mutual. Not helping him with his surgery, suing him, and basically being the reason for his divorce, by telling my stepmother the truth, has created a huge rift between us. But she was going to find out anyway. And after his lies and fraud, I wasn't going to give him money. He deserved the lawsuit. Besides, the rift had already existed, at least from my side. So nothing really changes for me. I don't have anything else to share right now. But if there's more, I'll open a new post to update you on all this drama. Edit. Since my stepmother has moved out of my father's house, the one he'll almost certainly lose soon, I know Laura is living there. My stepmother told me. In the end, it's true what they say, misery loves company. I probably butchered that saying, but you get my point. Right now, I wish I could be a fly on the wall, just to see what that living situation is like. Edit 2. Actually, I don't want to be a fly on the wall, not after what some people wrote in the comments. I don't think it will happen, but after imagining my father and my stepsister together in a relationship, no, I don't want to be there. Thanks to whoever made that comment. You ruined my lunch. Update 4. Here's the update about my stepmother's divorce. Well, technically, she's not my stepmother anymore. But since we're still close, and she's been a better parental figure than my own father, I think I'll keep calling her that. Despite the divorce, we don't plan to stop being close. I'm not going to cut important people out of my life just because of a piece of paper. As I expected, there was little to divide in the divorce. The good news is, she was able to walk away with her own money, and also with the funds for the surgery. It turns out my stepmother had to use her savings to pay for the surgery. But in the divorce, she got that money back. She felt pity for my dying father and did that last thing for him. I think she has a bigger heart than mine, because I couldn't do it. In other news, my father's house has been sold. With that, he honored the debt he had with me. He paid back every last cent. That cuts any sentimental, legal, or any other kind of tie we had. From what little I know, he has moved into a small rental apartment. And no, my sister did not move in with him. Not with her mother either. Yes, this is what I know, but take it only as a rumor, because I can't confirm it. So if I make an update in the future, it could change. Supposedly, she has found a job, is living with another man, and has even started giving some money back to my father. I find it hard to believe all of that is true, but some parts might be. I'd like to hear your bets in the comments if you want to take a guess. My bet? She's working as a stripper, her boyfriend is her pimp, and my father is getting money from her private dances. Today, my father and I have no relationship whatsoever. Between us there's only karma. For me, it's justice, because it's the money he stole from me with a lie. For him, I'm an inconsiderate son. You know what? I don't care. Because he doesn't want a relationship with me. What I did gain was a stepmother, and that's the best thing he's given me in a long time. My hunch is that this will be my last update, though you never know for sure. But with my money back in my account, and with a 0% chance of ever giving my father money again, there's no way this drama can explode once more. I'm not naive enough to think my father might want a relationship with me in the future. Or money. His demands will fall on deaf ears. Hello, and bad news for the "forgive your dad, that's what a son should do" team. Sorry if you like crawling back and groveling, that's not my style. But hey, you can do whatever you want with your life. Crawl for whoever you like. It's not my money. It's not my life that I won't stumble over the same stone twice.